Burnett out front tonight, pigging out. There's good news and bad news coming out today from the pig. I mean, they'll eat anything, won't they? They are sort of cute, but they're pigs. And the watchdog group, Citizens Against Government Waste. I'm sorry, I mean, what are those little dirty spots? Something is about them is endearing, but it is not endearing about lawmakers' pet pig projects. We got the numbers for fiscal year 2012, and for good measure, we brought, some of these little friends along from the farm. It's probably better than a lot of the things that they usually eat, isn't it? The good news first. Pork is down. Since the big push by lawmakers to ban earmarks and appropriations bills, we've seen a big improvement on Capitol Hill, and we don't say that often, so we want to emphasize some good news, something to champion. Earmark spending down 80% from 2 years ago. That's the last time the pig report came out. That year, there were more than 9,000 earmarks, which cost $16.5 billion. This year, there's only $3.3 billion of piggy, but it's still too much. And to put it in perspective, the Buffett tax would have raised only $4.7 billion a year. So 3.3 matters. Exhibit 1, you're looking at it here, the M1 Abrams tank. Taxpayers, that means you, are shoveling out $255 million to upgrade these tanks. The big deal? Well, the Pentagon doesn't even want the upgrades. And, the Pentagon is really upset about all the cuts it's facing. So if they actually say they don't need this, they probably really mean it. The Army seemed to think it could suspend the upgrades for 3 years, but lawmakers from both parties trying to protect jobs at home thought otherwise. Pork is bipartisan. Next up, $48.5 million for the National Domestic Preparedness Consortium. The what? Well, if you haven't heard of it, you are not alone. We had to spend some time looking it up today. It appears it is part of FEMA. It's a group of university and research centers that take part in anti-terror training programs. The red flag? The $48.5 million you're forking over is more than what the president even requested in the budget for that program. What does Congress know about the NDPC that the president doesn't? And here's a good one. $5.8 million for the East-West Center in Hawaii, devoted to improving relations among Pacific nations. Now, according to Citizens Against Government Waste, the East-West Center has received 10 earmarks worth a total, get ready, this is sort of a bridge to nowhere sort of a thing, $104 million since 1997. The State Department has actually tried to kill this organization for years, but the center is headquartered in Appropriations Chairman Daniel Inouye's home state. So it lives. Oink, oink. There you have it. Pork barrel spending, alive and well. I never thought I'd get to do that on live television. One senator has made a career out of trying to fight it. Senator Tom Coburn, Republican of Oklahoma, comes out front. Probably thought I had a real pig, huh? Yeah. Thanks very much for being with us. Let me just start off with this question about, should we be celebrating the 80% drop that Citizens Against Government Waste is talking about in terms of the overall spending, or are you still incredibly frustrated by some of the examples that we shared there, like $255 million for tank upgrades the DOD says they don't even need?
Well, any dollar that we're spending today, knowing that 40% of the dollars that we spend we're borrowing, is painful for me when I think about my grandkids. So, and your grandkids and your kids' kids, we still have a problem that politicians want to get reelected based on sending money back home. And for economic development, quote, or for making sure a plant does something the military doesn't want to do. And the question Americans ought to ask is, how loyal is that to the oath of the Constitution that the supposed senator or member of House took when they said they were going to do what's best for the country and uphold the Constitution? And it's really frustrating to me, Erin, that we continue to spend money we don't have on things we don't absolutely need.
And I mean, I think that's incredibly frustrating to everyone. I'm curious about one thing, though, because technically, right, we don't have earmarks anymore. Now, the Citizens Against Government Waste says, look, these things fairly, in their point of view, count as what would be an earmark. But some in your own party, Representative Mike Rogers of Michigan, have said, bring the earmarks back. The transparency of knowing what people are trying to get is better than this kind of doing it on the sly and hoping that some government, Citizens Against Government Waste will ferret it out and find it.
Well, I would actually disagree with Mike Rogers. The first earmarks were presented to Reagan in a transportation bill in 1982, and he vetoed the bill. It only had 8 in it. He said, send me a bill with none, and they did. And what you can see is you can correlate the increase in spending in Congress with the number of earmarks. As the earmarks rose, the amount of spending rose. And the reason that happened is when you put something in a bill, you don't care what's in the rest of the bill. You vote for it because you have an earmark in it. And if you don't vote for it, the chairman of the Appropriation Committee comes and says you'll never get any more earmarks. So what happens is earmarks become the way we grow. Quite frankly, there's still tons of earmarks in the bills because we're still funding projects that were started before there was an earmark moratorium.
Aren't there some projects, though? I mean, you know, as an elected person, you get elected to go in and fight for your people. And earmarks are a way where you fight for your people, which is what you're elected to do, right?
Sure, I don't have anything in terms of fighting, but you have to put it in context. If the country's strangling on the debt, what should be your first obligation? Control the spending and eliminate the debt so that your children have an opportunity for the future? Or is it to continue to send money that we don't have back to states to enhance individuals? I would tell you the real way to solve the earmark problem is to embrace the Constitution, which outlined for us a limited government. And if you think about it, there's a legitimate role for defense needs. There is not a legitimate role to continue to spend money on a defense product that the military does not want.
Well, and believe me, we know, talk about oink oink, the military will take what they can get if they really want it, right? They're going to try. I want to ask you one question here, though. Senate Budget Committee, Kent Conrad unveiled his 2013 budget resolution today. Obviously, of course, we have the Ryan plan out there, but very important, Senator Conrad says he's going to reintroduce Simpson Bowles tomorrow. If it came to a vote, would you vote for it?
Yes, I would. But it's not going to come to a vote. It's not even going to come to a vote in committee. It's nothing but a stunt to try to take away the criticism of not having a real discussion about our budget in the Senate. And so Kent Conrad is an honest guy. What he would really like to do, and Harry Reid won't allow him to do, is to put a budget on the floor and let's vote it. And Harry will not do that, violating the U.S. law, the Budget Act. He has to do it, but he refuses to do it, so it's a stunt. And all it is a political stunt to make sure we lessen some of the charge against not having a budget in 1,100 days.
Right. Well, I guess I'll take the glass half full, and I like hearing someone come out with vehemence and saying, I'm going to vote for something that deals with the big crisis in this country, which Simpson Bowles certainly does. Thanks very much to you, Senator Coburn. Out front next, Mitt Romney claims there's a left-wing conspiracy to re-elect President Obama.